Good morning, everyone. Come on in and have a seat. This is House of Chatter, and I am Emmy with your cold iced tea. And today we are talking about a controversial or the controversial birth scene. And I think the one scene that ends it for for a possibility of a sequel on Justin Baldoni's side, but also it's going to make it near impossible for Blake Lively to make a sequel. But it also turns out that maybe Blake Lively was going to get backlash no matter what she did, no matter how she starred, what her wardrobe was. I don't think she would have gotten out of it without a tarnished reputation, in my opinion. But let's take a look at the actual birth scene and the scene that I think she most embellished and possibly told the other cast members. Because as you know, she kind of poisoned the cast members, and there had to have been some sort of story or catalyst to do that. And I think the birth scene was a big part of that catalyst to kind of flip everybody over because it's the most it sounds like the most egregious things in the series of mishaps that happened on set. So as always, we're just going to go look at the complaint, look what she said, look what Wayfair has said in some of their exhibits, and take a real good look at this birth scene. And then um I'll play I'll play what Justin Baldoni and No More wanted the story to be and the mission and the meaning behind that. And I do believe that this whole mission of the movie went against Blake Lively's actual marketing campaign because I don't think No More, the organization No More, would have been behind that marketing campaign of promoting alcohol and a movie when you're talking about domestic violence. And let's not forget, the whole aim of this movie was to bring awareness to DV, right? And Justin Baldoni always held that line. But I think Blake Lively and Colleen Hoover and Ryan Reynolds and everybody else, they got dollar signs in their eyes. And come to find out, maybe Ryan Reynolds isn't the big hit maker, big money maker that he seems to be. And we can get into that a little bit later. But let's take a look at the complaint and specifically the 30 points. Because the more that I look at this, the more that I notice, and it gets creepy. And well, creepy just I'm triggered by a lot of this. But let's take a look. So in her 30 point whatever conversation yelling that she wanted to talk about, right? Point 15 says all actors participating with BL in intimate scenes involving her being in any state of nudity or simulated nudity must be classified as active working actors, not friends of the director or producers, and must be pre-approved by BL. So we know that, right? No more filming of BL nudity without fully executed SAG compliant nudity rider in place. Any such footage already shot without this rider in place and in direct violation of SAG requirements may not be used without BL's and her legal representative's prior written consent. It also talks about BL or another performer predicting Lily. We'll get into that a little bit later. 18, an intimacy coordinator must be on set for all scenes involving nudity and or simulated X and must have a monitor to ensure compliance. So someone wanted to have a monitor. And then 19, no monitors to be viewed or accessible on set or remotely during closed set scenes except by BL essential crew and personnel. Except by BL approved essential crew and personnel. So someone else can be viewing that monitor as long as BL or Blake Lively approves. And what else I wanted to point out? Here we go. Engagement of a BL approved A-list stunt double to perform Lily in scenes with Mr. Baldoni involving ape or violence. BL to perform only close-up work or work from a BL pre-approved shot list in scenes with Mr. Baldoni involving actual violence. And I think that is it that I wanted to cover from that. But in her complaint, in paragraph 51, she starts to describe the chaotic birth scene where everything started. So, on the paragraph 51, on the day of shooting the scene in which Miss Lively's character gives birth, Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath suddenly pressured Miss Lively to simulate full nudity. Despite no mention of nudity for this scene in the script, her contract, or in previous creative discussions. Mr. Baldoni insisted to Miss Lively that women give birth naked and that his wife had ripped her clothes off during labor. He claimed it was not normal for women to remain in their hospital gowns while giving birth. Miss Lively disagreed, but felt forced to compromise that she would be naked from below the chest down. When the birth scene was filmed, the set was chaotic, crowded, and utterly lacking in standard industry protections for filming nude scenes, such as choreographing the scene with an intimacy coordinator, having a signed nudity writer, or simply turning off the monitors so the scene was not broadcast to all crew on set and on their personal phones and iPad. I didn't notice that last part that she put in there. And on their personal phones and iPad. Did anybody else catch that? Ooh, that's spicy. Okay. Mr. Heath and Mr. Baldoni also failed to close the set, allowing non-essential crew to pass through while Miss Lively was mostly nude with her legs spread apart in stirrups and only a small piece of fabric covering her genitalia. Okay, let's remember that. A small piece of fabric covering her genitalia. Among the non-essential persons present that day was Wayfair co-chairman Mr. Sarwitz, who flew in for one of his few set visits. Miss Lively was not provided with anything to cover herself with between takes until after she had made multiple requests. So she couldn't cover herself with anything. Miss Lively became even more alarmed when Mr. Baldoni introduced his best friend to play the role of the OBGYN, when ordinarily a small role of this nature would be filled by a local actor. Miss Lively felt that the selection of Mr. Baldoni's friends for this intimate role, in which the actor's face and hands were in close proximity to her nearly nude genitalia for a birth scene, was invasive and humiliating. That's paragraph 51 and 52. And now we have a footy note fetish that says generally nudity below the waist in film utilizes a small piece of nude fabric glued around the female actor's genitalia to provide some minimal privacy without disturbing the shot, because that fabric is not able to have visible straps from profile camera angles. So what they are saying is that she was forced to be nude for this scene so that you couldn't see any straps, no underwear, no lines, no nothing, right? Is the idea. So Blake Lively mentions an intimacy coordinator. I'm just going to check with the chat real fast. Good morning, the Wrathful Proser. I hear you have a new audiobook coming out. Jungle Vet Jill, good morning. It's nice to see you guys. So we're just taking a look at this birth scene, and now we're getting to the intimacy coordinator. So remember, Blake Lively had two intimacy coordinators. I'm sorry. There are two intimacy coordinators, one during phase 1 and a second during phase 2. Now, I believe, was it Book Talk or in one of the interviews, Blake Lively does admit that there were intimacy coordinators on set and that they had one. It was also noted that the host of that interview pointed out that Blake Lively also acted as her own intimacy coordinator and that this was plastered all over Instagram, where she could be seen grabbing onto Justin Baldoni and pulling him into her. And this is during the onesie scene. Okay. So, who was the first intimacy coordinator? And this is the same intimacy coordinator that was deposed. Her testimony is currently under seal. But this is Lizzie Talbot. From her IMDb profile, it says Lizzie Talbot is one of the original intimacy coordinators and directors in the US and UK. So clearly, Wayfair was not playing with their intimacy coordinators, right? They pulled out the stops for this one. She has been researching safe and dynamic intimacy for performance since 2015 and was one of the first to work as a professional intimacy coordinators on set. She is the founder and director of Intimacy for Stage and Screen, one of the first companies in the UK advocating for the safe intimacy for the webpage cut off. For the stage and screen. So she sounds like she knows what she's doing, right? One of the first intimacy coordinators in the US and the UK, right? So you kind of say that maybe she might be an expert if she were ever to be like called into court, if she's one of the first ones, one of the first founders. So intimacy coordinators seem like it's a pretty new thing, right? 2015, isn't that's 10 years. So it's a pretty new thing. But interesting enough, according to Jamie Heat's timeline, and this timeline isn't solely Jamie Heat's input. This timeline, there is about 3 different versions of it with different details on each one. It was a shared access document at one point, and you can see that in the timeline itself. There's a little comment that says, okay, we don't have to share this anymore. Let's close it. Okay. Just to be fair. So this is everybody's. So on 6/3/2023, they are shooting the mirror shower scene 91. According to this timeline, this would be the first nudity scene of production. Lindsay Gottlieb, I don't know why there's the last name of Gottlieb, but if you take a look at her 17-point agreement, it's actually Lindsay like Strasberg, not Gottlieb. I just have to point that out. So I just think it's interesting that it's Gottlieb. Blake's lawyer took issue with this as at the time a nudity rider had not been signed. Now remember, Blake Lively didn't sign her nudity rider. She just signed the offer letter at this point. The nudity rider gets signed later. So I'm going to tell you what the intimacy coordinator said. about all this because she supposedly didn't have an intimacy coordinator, right? So I have to kind of read this backwards because the emails are kind of backwards. So one of the first emails is a chain. It says, "Hi team, wanted you to put on a chain with Lizzie Talbot, our intimacy coordinator, who is currently reviewing the new script draft and will be speaking to Justin this evening in regards to the X scenes in the film. Lizzie will provide language for the nudity writers for both Blake and Justin. Because we shoot the first simulated X scene in Vegas on 5/10, we need these nudity writers signed by Monday, May 8th. I don't know what, if anything, has been drafted yet. We'll let you all. Is that connect? Connect. I mean, might be a good idea to give Lindsay heads up on the timeliness, urgency of this if we haven't already, so she's prepped when it comes in. Best, Alex." And I believe this is Alex Sachs because it says, "Please note my new email address, redacted, and new company name, Sachs Picture Company." So Miss Sachs has a new production company named after her, it looks like. Maybe just for the movie. So that was May 2nd of 2023. And this looks like it was produced by Jamie Heath as an exhibit. And this is from Lindsay now, sharing some of the language, and it gets kind of graphic. It says, "Hi everyone, thanks for sending attached nudity writer. I currently only have the nudity writer language for, it looks like scene 69, but we'll give the rest of it to you as soon as possible. Please see the nudity writer parameters for Justin and Blake below." So they're talking about some of the scenes, and we get down to nudity. And it looks like for Blake Lively, what specifically says that the language that they want to use for Blake Lively is, as far as simulated X, player consists to simulated vaginal sex X in a variety of positions. And there's 1, 2, 3. I don't even know if I can say these, but regular, I guess, with her scene partner. An external barrier will be provided for her comfort and protection. So I think that's what they're saying about that. It's called a modesty patch. It also says nudity. Player does not consent to any nudity. So, and I'm trying to read this, just an FYI. And this email acknowledges that there has been no direct conversations with the actors regarding this. And this is just a chain in the language that she's providing for those nudity writers. Let me see if I get any confirmation on that, because as we know, Blake Lively never signed one. And then here we go. Here's another interesting one on this text chain. It involves her lawyers and Blake's acknowledgement in this. So looks like Lizzie wrote this. This is to Alex Sachs regarding nudity writers. "Hi all, please see the nudity writer language for Blake Lively, which will be required for the below scenes. This says scene 842 and scene 69. This is Simulate X. Player consents to that in a variety of positions. Barrier, nudity. Player does not consent to any nudity except for side breast, which would be seen while still wearing a bikini. No other scene requires a nudity rider as per SAG. This has been agreed with Blake and her lawyer today. Thanks, Lizzie. Elizabeth Talbot, intimacy coordinator. Should I reread that? Doesn't it sound like they were talking about the nudity scenes and the X scenes and what needed a rider and what didn't? And this is phase one intimacy coordinator talking to Blake Lively and her lawyer, who look like they agree. According to this email from the intimacy coordinator, phase one, Elizabeth Talbot, to Miss Alex Sachs. So, what the heck is Blake Lively complaining about? Does anybody see a little contraindication? Maybe she's just full of fluff. Blake Lively is full of fluff at this point, in my opinion. So, which makes everything else very interesting because this intimacy coordinator is approving all of these intimate scenes. And now she's saying, according to the expert, no other scenes per SAG AFTRA require anything else. And then it says, hi, Lizzie, further below, also attaching Justin's nudity rider that has been redlined against Blake's for ease of reference. For an interesting time, I'll be sending these to the attorneys for review shortly, but please let me know if there's any other changes to be made from your perspective. And this is May 8th, 2023, way before January. And let me remind you, Blake Lively was still changing the script in January. So was she coordinating with an intimacy coordinator then? I'm just going to check in with the chat. Sounds like she assumed she would have a problem before there was one. It sounds like she had a Ryan Reynolds problem. All over. Yeah. This is from Lizzie to Joseph. I'm not sure who Joseph is, but Julie Bloom, I believe, is one of the ADs that let go. She's on this email thread, along with Alex Sachs, Jamie Heath, Mariella Vila. I don't know who that is. Jill Sacho, I don't know who that is. Hi, Joseph. I've looked through this, and the depiction of the X scenes is exactly as discussed with the actors. So that section is ready to go. Blake spoke about final approval. Wait a minute. Blake spoke to the intimacy coordinator. The one that she says that there wasn't one. Okay. Blake spoke about final approval for all images, but that doesn't seem to be in this document. In any case, I won't intervene here as that's between production and the actors. It might come back with amendment or this point, though, so just flogging that. Thank you for sending, Lizzie. So I really would love to read this deposition, and that's the end of that email. I would love to read that deposition of Lizzie. So what are your thoughts so far on this whole thing, on the chaotic? How does it sound to you? It doesn't answer a lot of questions with the email, but it does lend yourself into what they were thinking because they were coordinating with this intimacy coordinator and nudity this whole time, or the possibility of nudity, in my opinion. This is what Wayfair says about that scene. May 22nd, 2023, shoot day 6. Lively prepares to shoot the hospital scene in which her character Lily gives birth. In Lively's December 2024 complaint, Lively alleges that during a birthing scene, she was mostly nude with her legs spread wide in stirrups and only a small piece of fabric covering her genitalia, and that there were non-essential persons present. This allegation is knowingly false. And I like that they put knowingly false in because that leads to the malice argument as we're looking at terms and whatever. To begin with, to describe Lively as mostly nude and naked from below the chest down is inaccurate. Lively was wearing black briefs. She's wearing black briefs, so we should be able to see like straps and whatnot, right? And a pregnancy suit that covered her midsection, and her top was covered by a hospital gown. So she was wearing a pregnancy suit. While I have you online, I want to see what a pregnancy suit looks like because I did not research that. Because I'm thinking pregnancy suit, big belly, and like a bathing suit with a big old belly. Let me see. Prosthetic, maybe. So this is suspenders and a strap around the belly, it looks like. So it's not like how I was picturing it, like underwear. Although some do have. Nope, all of it. It just looks like it covers your midsection. Oh, and one of them looks like underwear thingies. So I guess it just depends on what exactly she was wearing. Because some of this does look like it covers her genitalia. Anyways, see. Go back to the timeline. Okay. Additionally, in Lively's complaint, she said that she was alarmed that Baldoni had hired his best friend as the OBGYN. The actor portraying the obstetrician is an award-winning Shakespearean-trained actor with an MFA in acting from UCLA. In addition to appearing on numerous hit shows, he has toured nationally with Tony Award-winning acting company and attended Oxford's acting program on a full scholarship. His engagement was no different than the engagement of Lively's sister, who was hired because she is Lively's sister. Despite their personal relationship, they are both experienced professional actors. And lastly, in Lively's complaint, she says that the set was crowded, chaotic, and utterly lacking in standard industry protections for filming nude scenes. For one, Lively was not nude, nor did the set diverge from industry standards. Further, closed set protocols would follow every day on set. Which is, yes, it was a closed set. We did see that page. And this is what Adam Munshine says about the incident. Let me just put it up because there was an ad and it moved everything. So Sorry, there's ads and there's pictures. Okay. Moonshine, whose character helped deliver lively characters Lily's baby in the aforementioned and pivotal hospital scene, maintains that everything that occurred when they filmed was above board. In response to Lively's claim that she was nearly nude, he alleges her costume included a full hospital gown, black shorts, and torso covering prosthetic to make her appear pregnant, in addition to whatever personal garments she chose. Moonshine further claims that the Gossip Girl alum never complained or expressed discomfort at any point because nothing unusual or improper occurred. It was entirely professional. Okay. And I wanted to see the birth scene again to see if you could know if it looked like she was nude and what camera angles they were using. If she was able to wear shorts versus briefs. So hopefully this works for me. And I'll tell you exactly what is going on. So Lily is huffing and puffing. Her hair is a mess. Here comes Ryle rushing into the room. I'm going to pause this. So, Lily's legs are in stirrups right now. You can see what? Maybe like right below that fake belly is the belly button. So you can see that. You can't see anything else. She's holding one leg. Can't see any black shorts. Can't see like upper thigh or anything. The OBGYN is away from her. It looks like he's like away from even her foot. So he's not even near her, close to her, that area right now, at least. And there is a nurse on her left who is barely holding a leg. And Blake is making sad labor face. So I'll play it a little bit more. Now the camera is moving up. Now you can't even see her belly because the camera moved up. It did not move down. Ryle is coming next to her bed to hold her hand. Lily still looks terrible. Nurse is still barely holding the leg. Okay, now the camera is focusing on their hands. They're trying to hold hands. You see part of her knee. Looks like her left knee, and that's all you see. Now they're holding hands. Now the camera's moving down to a little bit of her belly. All you see is a couple inches above her knee. Camera's moving down. Doesn't even move down close enough to even look like it's going near a sensitive area. Ryle is being very supportive with Lily. Lily still looks like she's having a hard time. Now she's laughing and smiling. And now they are together, breathing in, breathing out together. Ryle is right next to Lily's face. They're holding hands. They look very supportive. His hand is now on her belly. Her legs are bent. You can tell the little toggle that measures the contractions. is covering up the majority of her lower belly along with Ryle's hand. Hospital gown is in the way. Ryle is kissing her hand, looking at her so lovely. Now Lily is holding a thigh, high thigh. Not enough to go near the underwear line, in my opinion. Ryle is being very supportive of Lily. I think she's doing a final push, or it looks like it. She's holding her breath. Breathe, girl, breathe. Now Ryle is looking away from Lily. Lily looks like she's almost winning a arm wrestling contest. Now you can see the shot of the OBGYN. His face is above her legs by her feet. Okay. His head is by her feet. Lily and Ryle are still holding hands. And then she delivered the baby. Baby's coming up in between her knees. Can't see anything else. She is covered by a hospital gown and the baby's blanket. Baby is resting on her chest. Hospital gown looks like it is loose on her shoulders. Both snaps at the top are undone. The rest of the snaps making the sleeve are connected. So she's exposing her shoulders. Baby is laying on her chest, on her gown. They are cutting the cord. Baby is still on her chest, covered by a gown. So gown and baby are covering Blake. Ryle is in love with Lily. They are looking like a lovely family, and that is the end of the birthing scene. So she was able to wear briefs or shorts and a pregnancy belly, and there was basically no need for any nudity. Mind you, the OBGYN's face was by her feet, so it wasn't like he was all up in there. And it looked like he had a pretty good idea of what she was wearing if he was even looking down there. But also, that nurse will also be able to tell us who or what she was wearing. In my video for the other scene, skipped itself several times. Okay. Now I can't find it. But it was the scene where I was gonna make a point, that scene where she wants a divorce. I was gonna read some of those comments because those are very interesting. And this is where she gets a lot of backlash. I'm just gonna check in with the chat. She was wearing more in that scene than she wore to any of the premieres or marketing photos. She's insane. God, I hate that psycho. You know, she was quite covered up. I don't think what she was wearing in the movie looked like what she was describing in the complaint. I'll say it like that. I think this whole lawsuit is very triggering to a lot of people, and the more that we get into it, people are getting triggered by a whole myriad of things. But I do think that Colleen Hoover, Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds, everybody else got dollar signs in their eyes when Justin Baldoni was like, dude, it's about domestic violence. What in the fluff? You know what I mean? And I think they perverted it, to be very honest. I know I'm going off on a tangent, but I'm just reading some of these comments, and I can see why this movie has kind of romanticized DV, because when Lily leaves Ryle, or Ryle leaves Lily, it is, oh, it's fine. Oh, I totally understand. I I'm not the person to be in this family because of my actions, right? They separate in the most safest way you could ever see a DV relationship end, because the majority of these relationships don't end on good, happy, healthy, I'm out of your life forever terms. These things end ugly and violently. And I can't imagine no more being behind a marketing campaign that involves DV and alcohol, and the fact that the best solution for Lily and the baby was to leave Ryle. That's like the whole message of the movie. That's why there is no sequel. There is no sequel because Justin Baldoni and no more would have to explain all the work that would go in to reconcile a DV relationship, and the majority of those relationships don't end well. I was in a DV relation. I've been in many. I'm a repeat offender, I will tell you. And my last very serious one wasn't the yelling. That was like the best relationship I've ever had, was yelling and slamming of things. But my the reason that my I lost my husband was because we were in a DV relationship. I left, and it was a whole weekend of DV, and that story ended with he wanted to see the boys. I said no. I want sober time. I want this and that. We're separated. We can do this whole dance again, therapy, whatever, rehab, sobriety, whatever. We'll separate. I was even going to buy him another house so that we can make the transition easier. And in the back of my mind, I was like, oh, we'll just get back together again. But that Monday ended with just the most horrific, unaliving thing you can come across. And that's why there was so much backlash in this movie. And I don't think that Blake could ever overcome that. One, because of the substance of this movie and how this movie ended. I mean, look at this. I'll read some comments. Abusers are not like this. In reality, he would continue to gaslight her and threaten her with court, etc., etc. They very rarely give up that easily. They don't even think about what is best for their own child, right? This whole scene angers me. It plays into the belief that a resolution is dependent on how strong the victim is and how understanding the abuser is. In reality, we don't have that luxury. So, Blake Lively wants to romanticize this and make this a love story, but Justin Baldoni wrote it not to be a love story. And it was just a clash. And then Blake Lively swoops in with maximum effort and says, hey, maximum effort, we need to cut off No More, because No More is going to be like alcohol and DV. They don't mix. And because we are talking about DV and No More, I am on their website. It's a beautiful website. They do have some education on there. And I do think that this mirrors a little bit of Blake and Ryan's relationship from what we know. Listen to this. Domestic violence is a pattern of behavior used to establish power and control over another person through fear and intimidation, like yelling, threats, often including the threat or use of violence. Some signs of an abusive relationship include exerting strict control, financial, social, and or appearance, needing constant contact, including excessive texts and calls, emotional abuse, including insulting a partner in front of other people. Now, I did go back and I did dig up some old tea about Ryan Reynolds and his yelling. Ryan Reynolds, I believe maybe 2015, 2016, yelled at his wife in front of her friends for 20 minutes because she did not walk the dog herself. She used a dog walker to walk the dog. So that deserved yelling for 20 minutes in front of her friends. Does that sound healthy to you? And where the fluff is Taylor? Taylor, enter now. You are going to have your friend get yelled at for 20 minutes for using a dog walker. I don't care. It's not worth being yelled at for 20 minutes. Let her use the dog walker. What's it to you? Anyways, side note. Extreme jealousy, showing fear around a partner, isolation from friends and family, frequent canceling of plans at the last minute, unexplained injuries or explanations that don't quite add up, and the use of technology to stalk, harass, and harm. And that is what the whole movie depicts. Okay. And if anybody needs any more information or any other resources, the National Domestic Violence Hotline is 1-800-799-SAFE. I have used this hotline and I've also used the YMCA hotline. Both were helpful. So, what does everybody think about that? The birthing scene. Do you consider it nudity or do you consider it simulated nudity? Do you feel that she should have had an intimacy coordinator there to help with the birth scene if she was wearing shorts and a pregnancy belly and all that? Should have there been a representative on set to make sure things went okay? Do you think that the intimacy coordinator missed something? And how will she be used against Wayfair if she is literally the expert? They could not dig up anybody more expert than what they had. So that was the birth scene. I'm working on the choreography of things, and that's gonna get a little bit interesting. Um, it's good and bad for Wayfair. It is good and bad for Blake because I think this choreography is going to be the one where people are going to start questioning whether she is an objective person, or a rational person, or the average person, because this whole case is going to hinge on what the average person thinks and not maybe what someone with hypochondria or a little bit of anxiety or whatever. I mean, if I was dating someone like Ryan Reynolds who was yelling because I was married to a yeller, I don't want to go back to that. I would, that's just giving me PTSD. I wonder if he like slams the cupboards and things like that. You know, when people get really angry and they just, I want to feel bad for Blake, but I don't feel bad for Blake because I feel like it's one narcissist versus another narcissist and this maybe mutual DV, jealousy, controlling thing. And y'all just, I don't even know. But let me know what you think. Share, like, let me know what you want to hear next. There's still so much evidence, depositions, emails to go through each one of these arguments. I mean, I would love to see this go to trial, but she's just gonna get buried, just buried in evidence. Let me check in with the chat. Yeah, she is really set on that scene. I dealt with the screamer. Yeah, screamers are like no go. And how is it going to be on Ryan Reynolds' part? He's already known as a bad marketer now. He's known as an onset abuser. Maybe there's questions about him and Blake Lively's relationship now, about the screaming and the insults and the hey, is that passive aggressiveness really great? Like, and now you have content creators who are shining the spotlight on Ryan Reynolds and his somewhat questionable behavior, where Not Actually Golden thinks that Ryan Reynolds is stalking her TikTok account. I mean, is Ryan Reynolds stalking my YouTube account? I mean, go ahead. I mean, don't steal my life and my life story for your own good, because I'll sue you. But, you know, how far is this going, and does anybody think that this mirrors an actual DV relationship in real life? Like, we're in it. We know now what it's like to date Ryan Reynolds or to be married to him. You know? So I'll just check in with the chat one more time before I say good morning. Lots of comments. Sorry. Okay, I've dealt with the screamer. Please check out HG Tudor. He has 2 playlists where he deep dives Blake and Ryan and classifies them as narcissists. I will take a look at that. It shakes you up. Yes, it does. Save screamers. Screamer will also blame you for their sore throat after. Yes, they will. And it looks like he has a playlist on Blake and a separate one for Ryan and all their past details, schools, family. He breaks down for their past relationships, and it's just wow. Ryan is probably stalking everyone. Oh, I didn't even know I could do that. Can I do that? Oh, hey, everybody. I just learned how to put a comment on the stage. All right, guys. So it'll probably take me another day or two for the Jamie Heath stuff because I have to dig for those exhibits. But thank you for joining me this morning. Let me know what you want to hear next. And yeah, I'll see you tomorrow. I do apologize for not showing up the past couple days. I've had a little bit of anemia, and I don't know if you guys messed with anemia, but I was just fatigued so much. So I'm very sorry. I will be here tomorrow for you guys. 6:15. Love you guys. And I hope you have a beautiful day. Thanks, house guests.